Global happenings today. We communicate, we analyze global news. Stay tuned.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Global Happenings Today YouTube channel. Indeed, the world is watching and Nigerians are also listening. As some few weeks back, ECOWAS, EU and the rest gave their verdict on the election observation that took place in Nigeria in 2023, especially the presidential election and the general elections, of course, generally. But right now, there have been some issues going on in Africa as a whole. A coup took place actually in Niger Republic, and there have been international voices speaking strongly against that coup. To make matters interesting, even United States of America at some point had to speak on that matter. Of course, they asked Africa and Nigeria in particular to lend a strong voice on that matter. What the international body said, or what the international community said, is indeed worrisome. Still on that same matter, in another news as well, archbishops, clergymen have said to speak up boldly, even though the pepc verdict is not yet out, and they're speaking in synonymous, in fact, in sync with the international community. And this is worrisome, not just to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, APC, and Asirok as a whole. Remember, appointed ministers are ready or standby to start up their duties. But before we go to the news proper, kindly subscribe to our channel by clicking on the right subscribe button beside it. If you see bell notification icon, please go ahead, click on it to get notified as soon as we update our channel on YouTube. Now, following the coup that occurred in Niger Republic after the military stormed the presidential palace in Niamey and removed President Mohamed Bazoum from power, few hours after the president was detained, a group of soldiers made an appearance on national television and made the announcement on Wednesday night. Colonel Amadou Abramani, who read the statement, announced the closure of the country's borders, suspension of all institutions, instilled a curfew, and warned against any foreign interventions. Having been flagged by 9 officers, Colonel Abdramani said the defense and security forces had decided to put an end to the regime that due to the deteriorating security situation and bad governance. The coup in Niger Republic has raised concerns on the minds of many, as this occurred barely 2 weeks after President Bola Tinubu, who emerged as ECOWAS chair, said there would be no coup in Africa under his tenure. Well, in an interview, a correspondent accused Tinubu of not being efficient enough to lead as ECOWAS chair due to the ongoing election petition in Nigeria, where the oppositions are challenging the outcome of the 2023 election, which produced him as president. ECOWAS is not as strong as it used to be, she said, because its chairman, the president of Nigeria, is having legitimacy issues. My God. Now, several Nigerians have been reacting to the submission of CABC correspondent submission on this. But before we look at what Nigerians are reacting, because this is really strong. In fact, if you see the names they're saying, but let's find out what Archbishop's got to say. Emeritus of Catholic Archdiocese of Abuja, John Cardinal Onayekan, has said that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not yet Nigeria's president until the courts have finished their job and declare who is Nigeria's president. The former president of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, in this interview also said Tinubu is obviously laboring under a very serious liability of questionable legitimacy. In an interview, of course, Onayekan x-rayed the fight against insecurity, war against corruption, and the fixing of the nation's economy, among other issues, giving a damning verdict that we are still where we have been for the past 10 years. Then I asked him a question. I said, what are your views on the activities of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu since assumption of office? He said, honestly, it is difficult to have any views on the activities of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu because, since in my opinion, he is not yet our president until the courts have finished their job and declare who is our president. He is obviously laboring under a very serious liability of questionable legitimacy. Then I asked him again, you said Tinubu is not yet our president until the courts have finished their job, but Tinubu was sworn in on May 29th. he had been taking decisions that are having an impact on Nigerians, whether negatively or positively. Are you saying that no one is in charge? Are you saying that no one is piloting the affairs of the nation? This is the response he gave. He said the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, with the electoral law based on it, clearly makes provision for post-election petition tribunals. Candidates for election commit themselves to accepting the result of the election as declared by INEC, which is the agency of government with the authority to conduct elections. But the candidates are also told to take their grievances to court if they are not satisfied with the decision of INEC. Right now, this is what Atiku, Obi and others have done. It was also a point strongly made at the two highly published declarations for peaceful election made by political parties at ceremonies anchored by the National Peace Committee before the elections. I take all this to mean that the declaration of result by INEC is not final. It is subject to the adjudication of court, which may either confirm or reject the declaration of INEC. It means that until the court gives a final judgment on a disputed election result, the election process cannot be said to be concluded. A swearing in a ritual of any candidate can be disputed does not change the fact. Therefore, it is my position that a president sworn in under our present circumstances is at best holding office in a temporary capacity until his status is confirmed. If and when the court confirms it, I will give him my full loyalty. But if and when the court disqualifies him, he should immediately quit the office. This is not an empty hypothesis because de facto it has happened with some governors in the state. The tribunal processes in the court are therefore not a mere formality with no consequences. It is true that practically all the previous presidents have taken office with cases pending in court. That so far all were eventually confirmed does not mean that this will always be so. This is why I fully agree with Uwani's committee that all court cases should be disposed of before swearing in. Anybody at any level of government, this is the case in most African countries, even in Africa. This is, of course, the broader issue that our electoral law should be drastically redrafted to ensure that elections are held with minimum rancor and controversies. Again, as it is the case in most nations, Nigeria must also move forward. Then I asked him a question. What is your take on the removal of Godwin Emefiele, Abdulrasheed, Bawa, service chiefs from office? Will their removal improve the security situation, the economy, and the fight against the corruption? He said the removal of Emefiele and Bawa is different from the removal of service chief from office. I understand that the service chief have served their tenure and normally have to be changed. As for Emefiele and Bawa, the allegations against them, as we can now see, whichever way it goes, people in these positions are not supposed to be there forever. It is supposed to be good for the nation that are changed after some time. Then I asked him one final question. He said, is the student loan bill signed into law by President Tinubu in order? He now said, I don't know whether it is in order. What I do know is that people have subjected the bill to careful analysis, and it has been found that it would not help poor students who are in need of assistance. Obviously, the whole thing has to be looked into. Unfortunately, every good policy in Nigeria ends up being hijacked and ambushed by corruption. This is one of them. Wow. Of course, there have been reactions and counter-reactions, and they obviously from all indication, but they asked me a very pertinent question that Nigerians have been reacting very strongly over, and that is, are you of the view that INEC chairman Professor Mahmoud should be shown the way out? He said something very unique. He said he's the one responsible for the election that has not measured up to expectation. If someone does not perform well, there's no reason why he should continue in office. I am sure Professor Mahmoud Yakubu might do a better job back in his classroom as a teacher. In any case, I do not know why we should always be looking for professors to run our elections. We should look more carefully at what kind of people and expertise we need for organizing an election in a country as big as Nigeria. Must it be a professor? Why can't we think of people who are more competent in the legal department, or some very highly skilled administrators, or even business people? We hope that with the battle we are in now, Nigerians will agree that we need to review completely our electoral system. This should start with the composition of the INEC to make it truly independent of government and the ruling political party. Wow. Then I asked him, what some parties are challenging Tinubu's victory. What are your expectations? He said, my expectations don't matter. What matters is what the court will decide. Are you okay with the performance of the election tribunal so far? He said, we do not know yet what the election tribunals are doing, so I am not able to assess their performance by their fruit. We shall know that. He now said, what are your thoughts on the demand by some government of national unity? He said the idea of government on national unity has its own parameters and rules. It is not a trick that one springs up onto the nation in order to, as it were, escape from boggled political situation. Rather, it is what happens after a free and fair election and political arena is such that the political parties among themselves agree to share power under certain clear conditions based on the result of the election. It is only then that we can talk of government of national unity. Before then, election must be free, fair, and credible. Wow, this is really strong. He's coming from one who understands exactly where we are in right now. But they asked him for one final word for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He said, what are the advice you are to give to Bola Ahmed Tinubu? He said, for the moment, I have no words of advice for President Tinubu. I only pray that God will save my nation and liberate the oppressed and take care of the poor in this country. Very powerful statement. For want of time.